Yo, what's up? Dr. Swole here, MD bodybuilder, back with another video. Today we're going to be talking about 5 of the best protein sources. Specifically, we're going to be talking about 5 of the lowest calorie protein options besides whey protein that I've found useful to help me build muscle and lose fat. Now, having a good list of protein sources is key for us as bodybuilders because having a high protein diet is probably one of the biggest things that differentiates the fitness lifestyle from the general population. Now, I specifically want to talk about some of the leanest protein sources, which is going to be really helpful for people whose main goal is to lose weight. However, I want to emphasize that having some low calorie protein options in your toolbox is really helpful for everyone, even if you're bulking, because you can use them to dial back your calorie intake if you find that you're overshooting. Even if you're bulking, you don't want to be in too big of a calorie surplus. There's an optimal rate that you want to bulk at, which we talked about in my lean versus dirty bulking video. The other thing is, in our society, it's really easy to find high calorie foods, and specifically ones that are rich in carbohydrates and fats. So undershooting our calories or not having enough carbs and fats is usually never a problem for us. If you just needed more calories, carbs, or fats, you could just stop by the nearest convenience store or order something in that would take care of those easily. But it isn't so easy to come by lean protein sources, so that's what I want to talk about today. All right, quick outline for today. I'll be introducing 5 of my favorite lean protein sources. These are super low calorie. I'll be going over my reasoning for why I chose them, which comes down to convenience, versatility, and preference. And I'll be giving you some tips and tricks on how to incorporate these into your life to make bodybuilding as efficient as possible. These are all foods that I found very helpful to cope with my life as a doctor bodybuilder, so I think that they'll be worth a try. Now keep in mind that there are really no foods that you absolutely have to eat. These are just some ideas, and this video really serves as an opinion piece. If you've been enjoying my content so far, make sure you smash that like button, hit subscribe, and let's get right into it. All right, now the first lean protein source we're gonna talk about is canned tuna. I'm just gonna pull up some macros here. So if you have half a can of lean tuna, you're only gonna get half a gram of fat, no carbs, and 15 grams of protein. So if you had the whole can, you would get 30 grams of protein, 1 gram of fat. So it's a crazy lean protein source. Now the other protein sources I'll be talking about in this video are also in the same boat, so stay tuned. But it's basically just protein and nothing else. Now the thing about canned tuna is that it's really cheap. I can buy a can for $1 Canadian, which is pretty cool considering that's a full meal's worth of protein. It's really convenient, it's ready to add to things, and it's non-perishable, so you can always have some on hand in your cupboard for those emergency situations when you haven't hit your protein targets for the day and you need to round out your macros. Now in terms of tips and tricks, if you're trying to lose weight and you want the absolute lowest calorie option possible, you can just eat tuna out of the can. I actually did this a lot on prep, where I would have my canned tuna with hot sauce or spices. If you want to bring up the calories, say if you're bulking, of course you can add mayo to make a tuna salad. It's also really easy to add to steamed vegetables or salads, sandwiches, wraps, and pasta. Now the only thing to keep in mind about canned tuna is the mercury content, so you don't want to be eating too much of it on a regular basis, but having some once or twice a week is going to be fine. All right, the next lean protein source we're going to talk about is chicken breast. Now you'll see a lot of bodybuilders, including myself, eating chicken breast when they're on prep. And the reason for this is because it's pretty much the leanest meat protein source. To pull up some macros here, for 100 grams, you get 165 calories, 3.6 grams of fat, 0 grams of carbs, and 31 grams of protein. Now in terms of tips and tricks, if you're thinking of the most efficient way to prepare chicken in the leanest way possible, my favorite ways are to bake it or add it to stew. So it's really easy to just add spices to a pan of chicken breasts, bake it for 20 minutes at 400 degrees Fahrenheit, and then add it to your meal prep, whether you're having it with some whole grain source or even just vegetables. Another super lean way to have chicken breast is to add it to vegetable stew. I'll do this sometimes when I'm on prep, when I'll basically take chicken breast, add it to chicken broth, add spices and a bunch of vegetables, and just have it stew for a few hours. It ends up tasting great. You can add it to a lot of things and it's really low calorie. All right, lean protein source number 3 is gonna be plain Greek yogurt. This one's really underrated and I think it's a cool bodybuilder trick, but Greek yogurt is really high in protein and the key is to get it plain with 0% fat. Usually when you get flavored Greek yogurt, it'll have extra sugar added to it. Pulling out some macros here, for 150 grams of plain 0% fat Greek yogurt, you'll get 90 calories, 0 grams of fat, 7 grams of carbs, and 15 grams of protein. So note that with dairy products, you're always gonna get some carbs with it, which can make it tricky for tracking, but it's still an amazing choice. Now the key is to add things to the plain Greek yogurt so that it still tastes good while still being minimal calories. The lowest calorie toppings would be to do a sugar-free or calorie-free syrup, like something from Walden Farms. You can get water enhancers, Mio being a popular example, or you can add fruit. Now obviously if you're trying to bulk, you could just get flavored Greek yogurt, or you could add syrup or honey. But when I'm dieting, I'll have my Greek yogurt with calorie-free caramel syrup, and it tastes like dessert. All right, next super lean protein source is going to be egg whites. To pull up some macros, for a cup of egg whites, you're gonna get 125 calories, 0.4 grams of fat, 1.8 grams of carbs, and 26 grams of protein. So egg whites are one of the leanest protein sources out there. Now, one thing I really like about egg whites is that they're so convenient. I can get them in 2-liter cartons at my local grocery store, and I can just pour the whole thing onto a pan to scramble for meal prep. So in terms of some tips on how to have your egg whites, you can scramble them and add them to wraps, which I showed in my latest full day of eating video. And one really efficient time-saving trick that I use sometimes is that I'll actually microwave my egg whites. Now, in terms of what to have it with, if you want the absolute lowest calorie options, you can just add a hot sauce or spices, which aren't going to add any calories at all. Or if you're bulking and you need more calories, you can of course add cheese or meat or other things. Now, the last protein source I want to talk about today is lean roast beef. To pull up some macros here, for 100 grams of roast beef, you're going to get 170 calories, 6 grams of fat, 0 grams of carbs, and 29 grams of protein. For beef, the actual cut you get is going to matter a lot because they have different amounts of fat in them. The leanest cuts for roast beef are usually going to be sirloin or bottom or top round roast. The other thing about beef is it's relatively expensive, but you can make it more economical if you meal prep in bulk. So what I'll do when I'm cutting is I'll buy a 2 or 3 kilogram roast beef, bake it in the oven, and then slice it up and put it into a week or two's worth of meal preps and just store them in the freezer. All right, so that wraps up our 5 protein sources. Remember that these are just ideas for you to try. There's really no right answer when it comes down to food choices. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you like the video and leave me a comment below. I'm really good about answering every single one of my comments, so you'll definitely hear back from me. In particular, what are your favorite lean protein sources? I'm curious to hear because these are useful to me as a bodybuilder as well. Comment of the week, I'm not going to try and pronounce this name, but it's great to see new subscribers. And if you're new to the channel, make sure you introduce yourself in the comments below. Now, if you're looking to improve your nutrition, check out my video on the 5 worst dieting mistakes that people make when they're trying to lose weight. Nutrition is a really important component in improving your physique, so you definitely want to make sure that you're not making any of these mistakes, and I'll be going over how to fix them. If you haven't already, hit subscribe and make sure you turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of my videos. See you next time.